Welcome. We want to share information on how to live an abundant life with diabetes. 20.8 million children and adults are diagnosed with diabetes, and an estimated 6.2 million people are undiagnosed. Yes, there are millions who are living with a disease that could drive them over the cliff, and they don't even know it. That's why we want to share with you what you need to know to keep on track and take control. Some of the objectives of this lesson would be what diabetes is, what is pre-diabetes, living with diabetes, the good, the bad, and the ugly side of diabetes, and treatment methods to take control. Diabetes, or more specifically diabetes mellitus, is a metabolic disorder characterized by altered blood glucose regulation and its use. Our bodies are wonderfully made. Everything operates in a particular order and within specific parameters. When your blood glucose is too high, or also known as hyperglycemia, then you're diagnosed as having diabetes. Insulin is a hormone that is needed to keep your blood glucose levels low by moving it into the cells so they can be nourished. Think of insulin like food. It doesn't matter how much food you have, if you don't eat it, you will perish. There are two types of diabetes. Type 1 is the less common, and this is when a person can't produce insulin. It's also called juvenile diabetes because the onset is usually less than 20 years of age. Type 2 is when the fat cells resist insulin. It's usually milder than type 1 and progresses more slowly, also called maturity onset diabetes because it often occurs in adulthood or when you're greater than 40 years of age. Sometimes you hear people say, "I have sugar," or "my sugar is too high." They are referring to diabetes and their blood glucose levels. Since there are millions who don't know they have diabetes or could be at risk at developing diabetes, I want to discuss the concept of pre-diabetes, which is having higher than normal glucose levels, but not high enough to be diagnosed. It can lead to type 2 and increased risk factors for cardiovascular disease. Some risk factors for prediabetes: ethnic groups, African Americans, Latino, Native American, Asian Americans, or specific islanders, greater than 45 years of age, especially when you're greater than 65 years, a family history of diabetes, obesity, particularly abdominal obesity. Metabolic syndrome relates to disorders of the body's metabolism occurring simultaneously, such as high blood pressure, high triglycerides, low-density lipoprotein, high-density lipoprotein, impaired blood glucose. And we're here with Luke Presley, and Luke Presley is diabetic. He has type 1 diabetes, and I wanted to get a perspective from a younger person on how is it to live with type 1 diabetes. Luke, welcome. How are you?
I'm good.
Great. So tell me, how old were you when you got diabetes?
I was 14 months old.
All right, so you have no recollection of how it was to live with diabetes at that time. That was more a challenge for your parents. But as you got older, let's say 12, 13, 14, you had to learn about the dynamics of diabetes as well as, your social perspectives of things and outlook. How was it for you then?
It was, I don't know. I mean, to begin with, that age, I just didn't like it, just to begin with. But
because when you say you didn't like it, what is it that you didn't like?
Middle school, intermediate school, you're changing classes. You start changing classes, and when you add the diabetes into that, you have to make sure your teachers understand that you have it.
Okay.
That's one thing that we always try and take care of at the beginning of the year.
True. Okay, so now that you're getting into the high school years, and you're saying that it was a little bit more difficult because your parents are not in control. They're not bringing you your snacks at 3 o'clock. They're not governing all of those details. It's more on you now. So how is it for you at that point?
Well, I mean, it's kind of exciting because I realized that it was something I had to take care of, but it didn't necessarily have to be a struggle.
Yes.
It could be something very easy to take care of. But at the same time, it was